Mr. Spencer, welcome back to the Killstream, sir.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man.
Good. I don't have a lot of time, but I'm very curious about what is going on exactly.
Um, well, um,
You're joining a lawsuit with Worski? I thought,
no,
wasn't
that
he your
was a
sworn
joke. No,
enemy?
no, that was a joke.
Oh, okay.
He was coked out on that stream, and he wanted to sue Jared Holt, but instead
Oh,
he said Jared Taylor, and I was making fun of him. I'm not suing
oh,
Jared
Jared.
Taylor.
Jared Holt is still doing his thing, sort of.
Yeah,
Where is
he's.
he working
I
now?
don't even know. He's totally diminished though, right? Like I don't even think about him anymore, right?
Yeah. Well, that time has gone. That time has
Yeah, it's
passed.
over. I don't know. I'm sure he'll get some gig at some fucking think tank or whatever, some shithole
Hmm.
rag, right? But no, I was joking. Like I obviously am not suing Jared Taylor. I was making fun of Worski for even saying Jared Taylor, right? Because he's
Yeah.
retarded, obviously. But we had Sticks on earlier, so and again,
Wow.
I told you, 15 to 30 if you're generous minutes here, just to get a little take. So we had Sticks on earlier, and basically you and Sticks. Hopefully, I think you can see me, right? You and Sticks and Sargon and all that. Hold on, there's a super chat. Hold on.
Instead Iridivice sent $1 on Rumble. Fuck Worski
For
Fest.
this
R
is
plus Flamingo Mo.
this is the fuck Worski Fest. But you guys, and again, I capitalized on it, and we had some debates after because Worski got
Hmm.
too cracked out and he dropped the ball. But like the Sticks thing with you and Sargon, that basically kicked off internet blood sports, and it was kind of a seminal
Yeah.
moment in internet history. To be honest, I don't think I'm overstating things
It
to be
was.
real.
Yeah.
Like it was that big, and
Well, it was crazy. There were like just tens of thousands of people watching live, and it was incredible. Yeah.
yeah, no, and again, it's like is irreplicatable. I think that's a word. You can check me. You're from Duke, so you can check me if that's not a word. Yeah, you can't replace it. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, you
And
can't replicate it because it was at a certain time in a certain way, you know.
yeah.
And it was very early on as well. I agree with that.
Yeah, and it set everything else off. Also, irreplicatable is a word. So I'll take my propers there. My SAT
Hmm.
$16 word there. Now, so what do you think about? I don't even know if you followed Worski since then.
I haven't. I mean, I will occasionally see him and that fat guy. I've seen clips of him. They're just tearing into people. I mean, it's sort of funny, but it also, it's like your entire life is based on negativity, like tearing people down. It's little.
Well,
It leaves a bad taste in your mouth, you know?
you,
Like you're
yeah.
like a gossip, the equivalent of a gossip columnist.
Well, see,
I don't know.
I agree with you completely. So, my show, we do a little drama, of course. We tear people down here and there.
Sure.
But, like, I also like interviews and, thoughtful discussions. I've been talking to you on
Yeah.
Twitter, and I'm like, the more I listen to you, the more I'm starting to, like, come around to your way of thinking on Ukraine and some certain other
Oh,
things
good.
and stuff like that. I didn't say I fully came around, but, like, I'm starting to think more, and it's like, okay, I see they're, like, switching the football here, right? Charlie Brown, like, oh, you can't kick it, right? And so I just always respected talking to you. You're a great intellect. You've been on the show probably 30, 40 times. And I like talking to people
Sure.
who I consider smarter than me, and you're one of those people. And that's how you get smarter, right? Like, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing.
Don't
And
be the smartest person in the room.
right, yeah, you never are. That's the thing. And so I love that, and I love that you've been so generous with your time. But I just think about what that kicked off in that moment in time. I guess, okay, I'll get a little introspective. What would you have changed about what you did after that?
Well, I mean, it's weird. I mean, you obviously can't go back. Um, but I don't know. I think the problem with the alt-right was that it had a tremendous amount of energy, and that energy from sort of recently red pilled people who were anonymous on the internet, and many bad people, if we're being honest about it,
True.
and people who just wanted to get out there. I mean, bad people within a group of good people or solid people or whatever. But there were some bad apples, let's just be honest. And this notion of getting out there and being seen and being recognized. And yet, I mean, I think the alt-right, it had the whole red pill uh, group. It's like you got red pilled on women, and you got red pilled on Israel, and you got red pilled on race and IQ, and you got it was like it wasn't really a thing or a coherent ideology. It was kind of a collection of controversial opinions, basically. And a lot of young people that wanted to be seen and to feel like they were doing something, and being out there on the streets yelling or getting into a fight with Antifa, that gave you the sense that you were doing something. But I guess when I look back now, I don't want to sound too much like Yoda, but that was the easy path. You're you're getting yelled at by an Antifa member. An Antifa member is macing you or something, and you're saying, let's go white race, let's go Trump, whatever. I do think that it was sort of the cheap and easy path. It wasn't really accomplishing anything. Now, everyone has their right to go out to the streets and protest. Antifa are mostly insane and evil. That's fairly true. And the backlash against the alt-right was unfair, was coming from people with tremendously larger bank accounts and so on. So I mean that made things very difficult. But you have to judge things, on their own merits. Like, was something really being accomplished? And I think something was, in a way. It was an interesting time. But yeah, I think that was the problem. There wasn't a coherent ideology. There were way, way too many people who were anonymous, and thus bad actors can easily swim amongst anonymous people. And I don't think there was a full, realization of how difficult something like that would be, and in a way, like how little that is accomplishing. I mean, and I don't want to, jump on people, but when I see like Patriot Front or something like that, and
What's it?
I really
Ralph
don't
sent
want to.
$3. Heil.
Yes. Heil Apollo. Yes.
Apollo,
Yes,
how
good.
victory. Go ahead, finish your thought. I'll skip
Well,
that. Go ahead. Go
I,
finish
I
your
I
thought.
don't really want to jump on Patriot Front. I'm just simply using them as an example, and in a way, this is constructive criticism. But when you're just waving flags and saying we're going to take back America, I mean, I think the question is raised, like, why, who, when, what? What are you doing? Who are you to take back America? What America are you taking back? When is this happening? How is this happening? It's this sort of blunt, meaningless blather at the end of the day. And I do feel like at least the alt-right, if it had never, developed or changed, it would have just been that, like a bunch of guys yelling that they want to save America. And I don't know. I think it's a brick wall where it just runs up against the kind of end of its own ideology, and there's nothing else there.
I'll let this go
Champion
through.
Bugman sent
I know what it
$5. I've
is.
had
It's
some
about
good
the
burgers
burger,
on
of
my
course.
I
But
love a good Swiss.
I do
Melted
love a
Swiss
good
cheese and
God.
mush,
It actually makes me
roasted
hungry. I'm not even
mushrooms,
kidding.
and caramelized onions on a burger.
Yes,
That is hot
yes.
stuff.
That's hot stuff.
You can get that at a number of different places.
It's an iconic line,
Perennial.
honestly. Like it's like, so people, I know they rag
so
you on
true.
it, but like
I mean,
it's
it's
so
just true.
true and like it's so
Who can deny
iconic,
that?
and they say it every time because it's actually fucking true. I do want to, and again, I said 15 to 30, and you know I'll try to keep it to 20 even. And maybe, you know, in a few weeks, month or so, maybe we can have a longer discussion. But this was just off.
You give me a little heads up.
Yeah.
Do
This
an
this
hour,
was
2
off the
hours,
cuff.
yeah.
I think you actually thought I was gonna sue Jared Taylor, which
Yeah, I thought that was like the drama to end.
no, dude, no. Like I love Jared Taylor. Like Worski was just coked out and saying crazy shit. He meant Jared Holt. But regardless, do you regret anything about what you did?
Well, I mean, I think I sort of expressed that. I mean,
you
know,
have,
yeah,
but I mean, just in a succinct
sure,
way.
there,
Do you
there are
regret?
regrets here and there, but I don't know.
I mean, you were on my show saying, let's retake Constantinople. That's one of my favorite rants in the history of my show, and I don't
regret
disagree
any
with you.
rant.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
I
it's a
mean,
comedy. I
rants
mean,
are
it's
just-
kind of a joke too, right? Like, but like,
There's a little bit of irony there. Yeah, I don't regret saying something kind of crazy and bold.
but do you regret your role?
My role in what? I mean, it's
Well, the Heil. Yeah, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. And of course, now it's no big deal to throw a Heil, right? But like, at the time, it was like,
yeah, but it's. I mean,
Ralph
isn't it
sent
interesting
$3.
that?
go ahead.
Isn't it interesting that all of this stuff that's come 7 years later is, in a weird way, a kind of rehash of
Yeah,
2016
it
and
is.
2017.
That's exactly what it is.
And so it would be sort of weird to regret, like it left a dent. And I've moved on because I at least try to always move on, move forward, not to get stuck in a rut or say the same thing over and over again. But it was crazy, and it left a dent, and it's being imitated.
I mean, Elon Musk.
I mean, that's
is,
the weird thing about it.
is throwing
Where did that
Hiles.
Elon
Like,
Musk thing,
I mean,
where did that come from? Give me a break. Of course that's coming from
and now he's got
2016.
the same haircut. Like, I mean, like,
I know,
what,
I know.
like, what is happening? Like, again, do you regret it, or do you think it was for the good?
Well, it's funny. I don't really want to say I regret it in the sense that, you know, would I do if I had a time machine?
Is
would
it
I
good,
do
though?
things differently? I don't have a time machine, but it definitely was impactful and influential. I mean, we're not in the same place where we are. That created, like, you know, on the timeline, that like made the timeline move in a different direction, to be honest. And so I don't know. I just sort of see it objectively. It clearly was highly influential. I don't think anyone can doubt that.
Nobody can. But again, I'm going to push you a little bit more. Do you think it was for the better or for the worse, your role in American politics?
Let's just say that I'm doing things differently, and
Of course, yeah, but is it?
I don't know. Did I create something terrible?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying
don't know.
terrible. I could say good, but like it's up to you to decide whether it's terrible or good, right? Like I'm asking you. Like I don't think it's not unfair. I'm not trying to pin you down.
I think it was overall good.
Okay.
Yeah. If I got into a time machine, that would be sort of weird. You get into a time machine and go back and do the exact same thing.
But it's just wild now that things you were doing, you know, like you said, 7 years ago, whatever, 8 years ago, how many?
Well,
yeah,
that's
8
what
years.
I feel.
It's like
I put out on-
now it's normal. Like,
yeah, I mean, I put out on Twitter these things, and I don't want to take like credit for everything or something, because obviously I was influenced myself. And it's not like other people hadn't said things very similar to what I said. But I did there's like a 20-minute clip that I put up on Twitter, and I would recommend people go read it. I mean, I can remember Matt Walsh in 2016
Jesus.
totally opposing Trump
I
and
do too.
totally
Shapiro,
uh,
Eric
im-
Erickson, all these people. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah,
Yeah.
and doing the proposition nation
Yep.
thing. We're
Yep.
not like other nations. In fact, we are a proposition nation
That's
where it's
ridiculous.
not about
Yeah.
creed. And he even says that as a Christian. It's not about
So
creed. It's not
stupid.
about color. It's not, and he did all those things. And then you hear his monologues now on the Daily Wire. And yeah, he sounds like a white nationalist. Jared Taylor should sue him, in fact, because he's not saying anything different. He's actually using the same words. And so I think there is a weird dynamic that was uncovered where there's almost like these people who do things first, they get scapegoated, and then these cowardly conservatives come in 7 years later and rehearse what was done. It's a very interesting dynamic.
Well,
Um,
it's like they took notes off you, and then once it became okay to say all this. By the way, the base was already there. I remember being at Stop the Steal, and you know what? I was talking to old boomers talking, and I won't even repeat what they said on air because
Sure.
they were
Yeah.
talking about boom boom type stuff. If I would have said that, they would have put me in jail. But like these old Republican voters, like they were way beyond. And I don't support that. To be clear, what I'm saying is.
Instead, I Iridivice sent
All right,
$1
look,
on
I'll get
Rumble.
to that. I just want to finish up my little segment here with Richard, but like they were saying things where I was shocked. Like I was like, these people are way beyond anything I've ever even thought, right? Like, and
That's another thing that I've noticed is that in this weird way, the normies become more radical than the marginalized radicals. And so, what I mean by that is that they're like, take Ashley Babbitt as an example, who died, on January 6th. She voted for Barack Obama. She was just a normal person,
I
and
did
there's
too, actually.
something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you voted for Barack Obama?
Yeah, I did.
In
Over
2008?
McCain.
Oh wow.
Over McCain. Why the fuck would I vote for
Oh,
John
okay,
McCain? Like war in Iran. Like
understand that
fuck
vote,
him.
yeah.
Fuck that neocon piece of shit. Yeah, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I understand that.
Now
But
Obama's a total letdown. Don't get me wrong, but like I mean, at that time, and at my age, it's like, what? I'm gonna vote for John McCain? Like hell no.
Right,
But
yeah.
go ahead.
But so there's a weird dynamic with the normies. So it's like Ashley Babbitt went from 0 to like 600 in 3.4 seconds,
Yeah.
and the marginalized, it's almost like you see these debates where, between like Fuentes or TRS or Keith Woods or what, and they're like, oh, what are the right optics, and like, should we revise our thinking on the Second World War and not talk about it? What's best for reaching the normies or something? And then you see the actual normies, and they're dying while raiding the Capitol
Yeah.
in order to overthrow the government. Like there's this weird dynamic that I never expected that. Like it's the normies become, when they are activated, the normies become more radical precisely because they're normies in this kind of funny way. Because the guy who's a member of Blood Tribe or whatever is LARPing, and he kind of knows it on some level. He knows that it's just a sort of expression of frustration and fury or
Rebellion.
fantasy,
Right. Yeah.
bravado. But then the normie takes it all too seriously, and they're like, they are going to destroy our country. You even see this on the left, where you have this kind of middle class normie getting excited about Luigi, who's I mean, from what I can tell,
He's a murderer,
allegedly
but
is a
like, I mean,
murderer.
did he
Just a
kill a bad guy
cold-blooded
though?
murderer.
I mean, like, I'm gonna be real. Like, that guy was. You can't co-sign killing, but like, I mean, the system we live under. I mean,
I get it, but that's my precise point.
right?
At the
Like,
end of the day, he is a cold-blooded murderer. I mean,
yes.
most likely.
Well, I
Obviously,
mean,
I
he
don't know,
deserves a trial like everybody
but
else. But
that's what
yeah.
it looks like, right?
Yeah.
But the point is that they don't go from 0 to 60. They go from like 0 to 600 in 3.4 seconds. Like there's a weird flip in their mind that they become ironically more radical than a Marxist who is reading Slavoj Žižek's, interpretation of cinema or something.
It's because they're so secure, though. Like, I remember talking to this grandma, and I was in Phoenix, Stop the Steal.
Mm-hmm.
And she was literally talking about, I don't even want to say what she, like, bang, bang, boom, boom on like, officials and the government, stuff like that. And it was because she was so secure in her life. She had money, she had grandchildren, like, she didn't care. Whereas, somebody, she basically felt like she had nothing to lose. She was secure. Whereas somebody who was less secure would be more afraid to say some things like that. And she said this in front of my
Maybe
camera.
that's it.
You know what I mean?
I think it's more psychological.
Maybe. Well, they're older too.
I think there's
but
some
like,
psychological thing where they feel. It's not just that they feel secure because they have $1 million in the bank or something. It's that they feel secure in the way that the world works. It's like everything fits.
fair.
I do this on Sunday. I pay taxes on April 15th. I went to public school and that's normal, and I have a job and I get off at 6 p.m. and then I watch football. It works. And then when that is shattered, they're almost more radical. Whereas the marginalized, heavily tattooed LARPer is totally unsecure. His girlfriend left him because she met someone on OnlyFans, and he now has a new face tattoo, and he's never held a job. His life is kind of inherently insecure.
Well, I just got into it with some LARPers yesterday, and there are no Nazis, right? Like, you can admire the Nazis or Nazi ideology or whatever, but like they're like tatted up and they think they're Nazis and all this and that, and I'm like,
right, but
you're fucking crazy,
like
right?
Life,
yeah. It's nuts.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's all kind of frantic. Whereas the normie is totally secure in his or her
and they're not
outlook on life,
right.
Regardless if they have money or not. They could be broke, but it's still the life makes sense. So when life starts to not make sense,
the paradigm's broken.
Like they get red pilled by QAnon, or they feel like, oh, you mean elections don't matter? Like I never thought of, like, even when I was 12, I was like, oh, I agreed with Rosa Luxemburg. Like, if voting could change anything, they wouldn't let you do it. Like I was like extremely cynical, and I never thought elections matter. But then the normie, they're like, because the average age of J6 people was like 45 or something. They weren't even young people.
No.
And so they're like, wait a second, elections don't matter? My God, I need to kill someone. Like they go from 0 to 6,000 in like 3 seconds. And I don't know. I think it's sort of fascinating psychologically to ask what's going on in their head, because it's not what's going on in my head. Like I guess I'm like totally secure in my utterly cynical perspective on America and politics.
All right, I'm gonna get you out of here.
I'm kind of a nihilist.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
They're not. They're not.
They're not.
The jigsaw puzzle fits together, and you take out a piece, and they're like, okay, it's time that we kill billions of people. We take to the streets and machine guns.
Well, I've just always assumed, the last politician I actually had faith in was Obama, actually. And then I found out, well, that guy's a total fraud. And I really...
He's probably well-intentioned, but he is sort of a fraud
like, once you get in the game, like, you have to play the game, right? Like, and unless you're just really willing to basically smash the constitutional system and totally take over the government and shred the Constitution, which Trump maybe is willing to do.
Maybe he is.
Like, he's looking like he might be willing to do that. But other than that, you're not gonna break the mold, right? Like, you're gonna be restricted, and so, like, if you're not willing to do that, you're held by these constraints. I will ask you this, and I again, I'm not gonna keep you for a full hour or anything. It's, run of the mill thing here. I see another. I'll play this.
Ralph sent $3.
I'll play this while you're gone. They're sending chats.
They
here.
always bother me about the book, but the problem is when the book in its like 500 pages dense, they're going to be like, "Why did you publish this book?"
Can we pay a bit more to get a signed copy of your new book, both Richard and Mark's signature?
Yes.
Also, when is your book coming out?
We're going to definitely do that. Yes.
Well, I have a book I'm working on too, but it's a little bit more gonzo, Hunter S. Thompson style. The book I'm working on,
Okay.
I want to ask you, just because.
Is it a coloring book?
So,
Sorry.
like, no, it's not. Actually, it's funny because it's gonna. Oh shit! Did it refresh? Hold on, let me refresh. Fine. Richard, you're still here. No,
I'm back. Yes.
It's not a coloring book. Hey, motherfucker. Are you talking shit? I actually am going to have Ralph Steadman. Do you know anything about Hunter S. Thompson? I'm assuming you do.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, I'm going to have Ralph Steadman style illustrations throughout the book, of course. But it's about the journey to the savage heart of the American dream here in Merida, Mexico, is what it's going to be about. So, because I feel like the American dream is more alive here in Merida than it is in America, actually.
Interesting.
So I hope you like it. Whatever, I'll send you a free copy. But
Good, thank you.
But what I want to say, and you can send me a copy too if you want, if you're both.
Oh yeah.
But
definitely.
but what I want to ask you is, so Ukraine, I don't really give a shit about Ukraine. At least that's my traditional thought, right? Like, I am a realpolitik guy, and spheres of influence, great nations, great powers. That's always been my theory of geopolitics, right? And the whole idea that after World War II, there was no more war of aggressions and war to gain territory, that was always bullshit. Like, that was always false. I've never taken that at face value. It's totally trash, and it's trash. And so, like, it's like Ukraine is something that doesn't, in my opinion, matter to the U.S. But the more I see you post about it, like, you did the whole Indiana Jones of the bag of sand switch with the, here's the bag of sand, the war in Iran versus the gold, like, proxy war in Ukraine. And, like, that actually had me thinking more than anything. Well, that's actually what had me thinking what was happening. And I'm like, and they just struck the Houthis the other day too, and I'm like, I hope that's not what's happening, but I don't know. Like, I consider you a really smart guy. I consider you smarter than me, and I see you saying this, and I'm like, maybe I'm getting taken for a ride here, right?
I think you are. Let me say this really quick. So
go ahead. Yeah.
I rewatched, and then I'll take off and go. But
yeah, sure.
I'll
that's why I want to give you this at the end, because it's your main topic. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
By the way, that speech you linked from the French senator, I don't know if you remember that. It was a couple weeks ago. The French senator gave a speech, and you retweeted it, and I had to listen to it in French, which I don't speak. It was bombastic. It was actually really good. But anyway,
for Europe,
that shit was fire. Yeah. Whether you agree with it or not, like, he went off. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but so
no, just keep going.
I watched.
Keep going.
Okay, I watched a debate between Henry Kissinger and the American ambassador to the Soviet Union who had retired. His name is escaping me at the time, but they were both realpolitik people, and basically, Kissinger was arguing in favor of NATO expansion as a stabilizing force. However, Ukraine was a bridge too far. He said that Russia considered Ukrainians blood brothers, and I think they still do today. That's how Putin understands it. But Kissinger's point was you can't worry too much about offending the Russians in their domestic politics. If you're going to do it, you have to do it, and that it is ultimately a stabilizing force and has been very successful. Um, so I get that. And Ukraine after 2014, they saw a little too much of Poland's, economic miracle. They want to be in the European sphere and not in the Russian sphere, blood brothers or not. And that's a very real thing. Like, did the CIA throw money through USAID at some groups in Ukraine, maybe unwisely? I mean, that's fair enough. But to deny that there is a real desire there to be European and not to be Russia's little blood brother, let's say that, the blood brother that gets picked on and so on. That's a real thing, and I think it should be understood as such. But in 2017, very early 2017, there was a meeting on a ship with a man named Kirill Dmitriev, who's this sovereign wealth fund manager, and Eric Prince, who was this kind of emissary for Donald Trump, and some other figures. And the notion there was we're going to decouple Russia and Iran in order to attack Iran. So Russia is, kind of a failing economy, etc. But we all know they have nuclear weapons. They have a history of playing geopolitical games. They want to be a big player, and etc. And the notion was, then we're going to end all sanctions. We're going to regularize relationships. You're going to visit the White House, and we're going to throw a party. But you're going to decouple from this kind of third worldist BRICS alliance with Iran. You are not going to defend Iran if Iran is attacked by Israel and or the United States. And that didn't work. That was an interesting idea that ultimately failed. And I feel like they tried it. They took a swing at this type of arrangement in 2017 and they struck out. And then they're going to take another swing at it now. And so all of this talk of like, let's just give up Ukraine. Who cares? We want to work with Russia for the world peace. I don't buy it at all. There's not going to be world
It's Russia.
peace. Like, they're not going to now be nice to everyone. It's about, you can't fight, 20 battles at the same time.
But is there a value in, Russia, China, U.S., and we just divide the spoils?
I mean, that's the United Nations post World War II, basically. I mean, yeah, I get it. But Russia doesn't really command such heights.
No, they're not
anymore.
on China or our
the
level.
economy decides
that's true.
it'll.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
But but they still have nuclear weapons, and they still have a kind of outward projection of national interest in a way that other countries don't.
Right.
Italy doesn't project its national interest outwardly to the world. Outside of selling olive oil. But Russia does. So it is different. But yeah, I mean, if you just put the pieces together, if you want to agree with me or not, that Ukraine becoming a part of NATO and Europe is a good thing, you can disagree with me and say it's not our. I mean, fair enough. I get it.
I think there's a middle road there. Is all I'm saying.
Don't be naive about what is happening. Like, the idea that they all just want peace is just inaccurate.
Do you really think they would take Poland and some other countries next? Do you really believe that?
I believe that more than other people believe it. Yeah, I think that it's more likely than a lot of other people who just laugh at that notion.
No, I don't laugh at it. I'm asking you, who study it more than I do. I think
Europe
it's
started
unlikely,
just totally collapsing, and Trump is in there pulling out. Would there be just a a reestablishment of the Soviet Union. Yeah, I can definitely see that. Ukraine is the key because Ukraine is the funnel place that a German or European army would drive through, as they did in World War II,
They did.
driving to the Caspian. I mean, there was a battle of Kiev or Kiev in World War II that the
Yes.
Germans won.
Very famous.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, against the Soviet Union. So like they take that stuff very seriously. And they feel because Russia isn't like Finland, it's not even France. Like Russia is a massive space.
The biggest country in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, that it has to be an empire. There's no Russian like it's just to compare it to like Belgium or England, it's ridiculous. It's a massive. It's like if America had like 50 million people controlling North America. Like it is imperial at its very core. And so you can knock that thing out with a swift land invasion. And so they have to have Ukraine in their mind. And I understand why they feel that way. And so can you just give them that security while you do what Trump and all these people surrounding Trump and surrounding Musk want, which is to secure greater Israel in the Middle East? I mean, yeah.
See, that's the part that wins me over there in the end. Richard Spencer, I love talking to you, and I thank you for being so. Again, you gave me a little more time than we had planned, and thank you so much. Please come back next month. I'd love to do
we'll
a
do
full
next month.
episode.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
let's do next month, and promote your stuff.
Well, you could find me on Twitter, and then you can get my Substack, but it's raditsjournal.substack.com, and you can subscribe to my Substack. Okay.
And give me the copy of the book. I really do want that, actually. PDF, I'm not going to leak it. You've been a great guest. You've literally been on my show. You're like one of the top 5 guests in the history of my show. And there's a reason for that. First off, you're just a good guy. You don't really worry about my personal drama and all this stuff. And I love talking to you because, like I said, I like talking to people who are smarter than me, and it doesn't like I don't feel inferior by saying you're smarter than me because you are, and I like that. I like to talk to people who are smarter than me because it makes me smarter, and more people should feel that way. So thank you so much, sir, and you have a good weekend.
I'll talk to you soon. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.